think this is going to be the topic of every single one of my videos for the rest of time, because this was the breakthrough of all breakthroughs. This was the moment where everything kind of made sense in my life, and I think it's a big part of what I meant to share here, because we're all so similar. And I was just saying this to my therapist. I was like, there's only so many problems we can have. I went to a retreat one time somewhere in Florida. It was either in Florida or Sedona. I went to 2 different retreats for like a similar topic. And they were talking about how there's only so many thoughts that you can have. Like there's a certain specific number of thoughts that are available to have. And then your brain just repeats the thoughts over and over and over and over and over in different ways, but very similar ways. And that's how we think, right? And so that's why we can do brain retraining, and we can train our brain to think other thoughts that, then form our energy, that then, manipulate our field and then manipulate matter. And so we have a lot of power through our thoughts. And we share thoughts with other people. And so when you move through something, and you figure it out, you find the solution to it, you embody the solution, you then make that available to other people who have had similar thoughts and similar experiences. And so when I had this huge aha moment recently, I was like, this needs to be talked about. And I think the more that I speak about it, the more that I will be able to articulate it, and the more that I will be able to share it in a way that is applicable. Is that the word that I'm looking for? You can apply it. Yeah, you can apply it to your life. That was something that my therapist and I were going through quite a bit in the last 2 calls, really. But 2 calls ago, I was just like, I need to be able to apply it. And so that's the masculine. The masculine is how do I do this? How do I achieve this? How do I make this happen? And then the feminine is the being, the flowing, the all of that. But my masculine side is okay, so from 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. I should schedule time to flow. And my therapist is no. And so then we look at regulation. And so nervous system regulation has to come first. It has to come first with everything. It has to come first with healing your body from chronic illness. It has to come first, maybe not first. Well, let's think about that. In chronic illness, so from my own experience with chronic illness and the clients that I've had in chronic illness and friends, I personally went the route of doing the intense treatments for Lyme disease and mold illness, and then also doing all the diets and protocols. And every time I would do a really intense detox protocol or new supplement or medicine or something like that, I would often trigger my condition of mast cell activation syndrome to be much more intense. And so mast cell is a dysregulation of your histamines from your mast cells. And so it's just, they're sending out so much histamine. And so then foods that have high histamines, like spinach and bananas and other foods that produce more histamines, can be very detrimental. And then environments as well can be triggers. And so the root of it is dysregulation. And so when we're doing more and more and more treatments, we're causing more and more dysregulation often. And oftentimes, you're dealing with the fact, also it's super, super windy. You're dealing with the fact that people don't believe you often what you're going through. You don't know if the treatment that you're going to do is going to make you better or not. And so there's a lot of dysregulation in that. There's a lot of fear that can come with that. And so when I went through my layers and layers and layers of healing, I then discovered brain retraining and how to regulate the nervous system. And that's why I created the program 21 Days to Rewire Your Mind. It's all about rewiring the mind, doing tools from brain retraining and working with neuroplasticity. Hopefully it's not too windy. It's so windy right now. That's why I'm sitting in here, is because I wanted to sit out there, but it's just too windy. Can I deliver this message real quick? And so when I discovered brain retraining, that is when my life changed. That was when I was able to heal myself from being so sensitive to environments. I was able to leave my house again. I think I'll just continue. I'm really sorry if it's so loud. And so my therapist was like, you need to just focus on regulation first, like regulation around the topic of understanding masculine and feminine. So I dedicated a whole week to doing my tools, like pretty much to doing 21 days to rewire your mind and do Arlo, don't do that. So we installed the fireplace recently and the hole is too big, and so when it was raining, all this water came through last night, and so now I have it propped up on some sticks to let it dry. And Arlo wants the sticks, so we're not gonna do that, okay? And so I focused all week on regulation, on nervous system regulation. And then in our call is when the big breakthrough came through. And so that's the thing with regulation, is that's when you're able to meditate. So the thing with like trying to meditate when you're dysregulated, when you're stressed, when your nervous system is all over the place, it can be even more triggering just to try and do mindful meditation, because you'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't do it, and then you're dysregulated more and more and more. So if you can focus specifically on nervous system regulation, then you can get into that state of meditation and you can open yourself up to downloads from the divine. That's why I have the next program, which I recommend in that order. 21 Days to Know Your Divine Guidance is after that. And so then in this call, we're talking about masculine and feminine. And I was talking about my experience with, and I shared this yesterday, but this is all I'm ever going to talk about ever again. Just kidding, but it's powerful. We're talking about my experience with the masculine and with the feminine, and how, you know, early on in my life, I experienced toxic femininity, like whatever we want to call it. It wasn't that nurturing, flowing, open, accepting, encouraging, expanding, beautiful thing that feminine energy is. It was more so like controlling, manipulating, and in the fashion that, you know, I wasn't enough. There's a lot of power here. Hopefully my roof doesn't just fly away. It's still very much in the process of being built. And so I experienced, you know, that side of feminine energy. And so hold on. Let's just act like this is like the force of feminine energy around us. So that was my experience with feminine energy. And so naturally I moved towards toxic masculine energy, because that was safer. That allowed me the space to kind of escape, but it was conditional. Both sides were conditional. And so my experience growing up of love and of safety was that it was conditional. And I didn't really know what feminine energy and masculine energy were in their like divinity, in their wholeness, in their full expression. And then I started seeing, you know, online people embracing their feminine energy and men talking about being in their divine masculine. And in a way it was triggering, because I was like, so it exists, but why is it not available to me? And it wasn't available to me because it wasn't familiar to me. And so we go towards things that are familiar. And the subconscious will mark anything that is unfamiliar as potentially unsafe. Even though we know that that's not the case, that is just how it works. The subconscious's mind is not, or responsibility is not to keep you happy, it's to keep you safe. And so it will do anything that it can to keep you safe. So if it sees these, you know, this healthy version of masculine energy and this healthy version of feminine energy, it can just throw you into full-blown reaction. Whether it's fight or flight, whether it's, hi Zima, whether it's symptoms, whether it's like, you know, fatigue, or maybe it tells you like, no, this isn't safe, and you get this uncomfortable feeling about it, and you're like, I'm trusting my intuition. Your intuition could be off because your nervous system is dysregulated. If you're getting like anxious detachment, if you're getting like these uncomfortable reactions to things, and it doesn't seem like, like real intuition, it's probably from dysregulation. And so through the process of learning nervous system regulation through my experience with chronic illness, I was then able to experience what it was like to get into flow. And through getting into flow with my own feminine energy and starting to create from that place, and knowing that there was value from that place, and knowing that that was enough, and that source was the masculine that would provide for me and protect for me, I was able to then expand in that. And then I would have these experiences of, meeting the healthy masculine and meeting the toxic masculine. And the toxic masculine would often feel familiar still, but I was aware at least of the experience. And so in the presence of certain toxic masculine energies, for a second, I was able to relax and feel safe. But the thing with that is that it's not that infinite well of abundance. It's not source. It's not God. It is this temporary fix that you will feel from being in that dynamic. And in that, you might have the ability to manifest abundance and flow and everything, but a short-lived. I remember when I was in a relationship with somebody and we had a lot of karmic ties and a lot of lessons to learn together, I was so tired. Like, I was just exhausted, and I couldn't tap into my creativity. I couldn't tap into, what I wanted to build. I just couldn't perform in my job. I couldn't build my business on the side. I couldn't heal my body. And then I had a health professional tell me her specific job was working with the nervous system and the brain. It was through a treatment called Cereset and brainwave optimization. Brainwave optimization was the original technology of Cereset. It's no longer available, and so I tried both of those in my health journey. So this practitioner that I had like a relationship with, we were kind of friends, I would watch her dogs and blah blah blah, she told me, she's like, you're never gonna get healthy in this relationship with this person. And in that, I was like, oh, that's so true. Like, I'm constantly feeling unsafe. I'm constantly questioning if he's lying to me, if he's, if he's really with this person or that person. I'm constantly just wondering if he's gonna have an explosive thing where he's just full of anger. And I couldn't heal in that environment because I couldn't regulate in that environment. And so we might feel a tiny bit of safety, but really what we're feeling is familiar. But even if you're feeling that familiar, you won't be able to regulate if it's not in alignment with truth, if it's not from a true place of masculine and or feminine energy, if it's not in that nurturing and taking care of and loving and accepting or providing and protecting and being that like grounding energy. If it's not that, then you're not going to be your fullest expression of your feminine or your masculine. And so the way that I was able to get out of this wasn't easy. It took surrender. Like, I think that's the best word to explain it, is that it took surrender. It took looking at all of those dynamics of the toxic masculine coming into my life and wanting to provide for me and protect me. And when I would actually look at the truth of it and say, this isn't it, and I would close that door, there's that period of time when you close the door to something and you're in the in-between. And you're like, because your subconscious will be like, this is unsafe. There's nothing familiar here. How am I supposed to trust that this other way of living is going to come through when I've never really even experienced it? That's when you have to give your mind evidence. And you have to dig deep and say, what do I know to be true? What do I know to be true? Do you know to be true that Source will always provide and protect for you? Do you know to be true that you have this divine essence to you that is just like craving to be free, craving to be in full expression? Do you know that your authenticity is the most powerful thing that you have? If you know those things, then you can give evidence to those parts of your subconscious mind that tell you that it's not safe. And you can do this through meditation, through EFT tapping, through different kind of somatic works, through brain retraining, through, all these different things. And so that's why I created the retreat. The retreat is something that I'm so excited about. And it's called Wild and Free because, and it's here in Italy in October, and it's called Wild. Oh my gosh, the roof is literally coming up. It's called Wild and Free because it helps women, it's a women's retreat, tap into that innate power within them and wake up that part of themselves that has maybe been like coming out a little bit here and there and here and there, but not able to like be in full expression of your feminine energy. You will be able to, it's more powerful even, like, not that anything is like one is better or the other, but in my experience of what I've discovered is that the feminine, and this was like a aha moment to me, is my feminine energy for me and my embodiment is more powerful than my masculine. But for so long, my mind, the masculine, was telling me like, no, you have to, you know, achieve more in order to make more, in order to be better, in order to be accepted, in order to be loved. But really, in my feminine energy, where I'm in flow and I'm creating and I'm resting and I'm doing what brings me joy and I'm taking care of my body and I'm just like going slow and listening to the rhythm of nature and like the rhythm of my own nature. When I'm in that, I'm magnetic. I am abundant. I am going to make the most amount of money that I've ever made. I'm going to have the most, you know, impact in the ways that I choose and want and desire to have impact. And I'm going to feel my best. And my relationships are going to thrive the most because I will be in my authenticity. I will be in my full expression. And so others can accept me for who I am because I accept me for who I am. And that feels fucking amazing. And so in the retreat here in October, that's what we'll be doing, is waking up that part of ourselves and letting go of all the other parts that are not that. I scheduled it specifically so that it would be on a full moon so that we can let go of the old, let go of the limiting beliefs, let go of the things holding you into the old paradigm, into the old way of thinking, into the way of thinking that your full expression isn't enough for some reason. Whatever conditioning got you to thinking that, we'll work through that and have community and sisterhood. The book, The Power of Eight, is super, super powerful. It talks about how witnessing other people's desires and manifestations helps those manifestations come to perceived reality much quicker. And so in the power of sisterhood, in working together in community, and also in there's so much to like sisterhood that before hearing sisterhood used to be very, very triggering to me because I was like, I don't trust women. And then I finally figured out what that meant. This is that divine essence, that powerful essence, and how beautiful it actually is. And you maybe have a mother wound, a sister wound, an aunt wound, some kind of woman wound that held you back from knowing the power. Maybe you still have that, but you're still interested in the retreat. When you come, I think that we will break down a lot of those barriers. I told you guys in one of my recent videos, like when I did a yoga class with one of my best friends, we did this eye gazing exercise together, and we just looked into each other's eyes for like a few minutes, and things like were shattering in all of my ancestral lines. I was just like so vulnerable. I was being seen, I was being accepted, and she was feeling the same thing, and she was being seen in her vulnerability, and we're just crying, and like there's no words for why we're crying, but the power of just being seen by others is so healing. And so I really wanted to create that kind of space. And also it just helps that we're in this beautiful Italian countryside location and that we have horses too. So we'll be able to do horse therapy, and it's going to be absolutely magical. So if you want to sign up for the retreat, there are some spots that are booking up quick, but there are still some available. I think the tents, there's a few tent spots available, and the shared room might be booked. You'll see a line through it, like when it's officially booked. So if it's not with a line through it, you can go ahead and book that. If you have any questions, you can email me at arayaamenti@gmail.com. So I am going to go. I have a client call right now, and then I'm going to spend some time with some friends who also just got here. We have a busy week of people coming to visit the farm, which is wonderful. So I love you guys. Thank you for being here. If you want to leave a comment and you don't know what to say, you can say, Arlo, you were so good in this video. All right, guys, I love you, and I'll see you later. Bye.